Welcome to Wellness for Educators. This is a 30-minute yoga practice called Rise and Shine. We're going to start on the floor, but then we are going to come to standing and then return back to the floor. Um, if you just have an open space where you want to practice, if you have a yoga mat, great. If you have a blanket you want to put down just to sort of designate the space. I do also have a chair because we'll either use a chair or a wall or a kitchen counter. If you have something like that in the space you're in, those will work fine as well. We'll do a little standing sun salutation when we get to standing. So for now, I'm going to start. I have a blanket folded up to support my spine just a little bit. I like a little cushion. You might like that too if you don't need it. That's fine. We're going to come onto our backs and just do a little bit of warming up the joints here to begin with. So letting the arms open wide, soles of the feet are on the floor, knees are bent. Taking a moment just to land, right? Feeling gravitational pull through the body. Connecting to our breath. I'm not necessarily always going to cue the breath. However, sometimes you'll hear me say inhale and exhale specifically, but it's always worth paying attention to, am I breathing? Am I holding my breath, right? If you find that you're holding your breath because of efforting, can you dial back the effort enough that you can breathe successfully? So taking a breath with the head on straight, and then gently turning your head to the right as you exhale. Inhaling back to center. Exhale, looking left. Inhaling back to center. Exhaling right. Inhaling to center. Exhaling left. This time we're going to come back to center and pause there for a moment. Inhaling to center. Exhale right where you are. I'm going to invite you to inhale the left arm up by your ear or your cheek. Inhale and then exhale, now turning to the right. Inhale to head back to center. Exhale, let the left arm float back down by your side. Inhaling right arm. Reach up overhead. Exhale, left turn of the gaze, the eyes, the head and neck. Only so far as feels skillful. Inhaling back to center. Exhaling the arm down. Let's do that again. Inhaling the left arm up. Reaching as far as feels skillful. You can keep your back broad. Exhale, turning right with the head. Inhale back to center. Exhale, the arm floats down. Inhaling, right arm up. Exhale, looking left. Inhale to center. Exhale, floating the right arm down. Inhale, the right knee towards your chest. Exhale, we'll begin moving those big toe, move the toes or the big toe in circles one way and then the other. Flexing and pointing. Let's go ahead and let this move directly into bicycle pass. If you've moved with me before, you know we incorporate this on the floor. We're just going to get this, using this as a little joint warm up, articulating the thigh and the hip socket, bending the knee, pushing that heel up, maybe then pointing the toes away. And let's reverse direction. And then we're going to go ahead and bring that left arm up as if you were going to reach for your toes. And then we're going to move the limbs away from each other, Firm through the trunk, right? Firm in the waist, in the core, letting the jaw be soft. Make sure your jaw isn't taking over. Reaching the fingertips away from that heel, reaching the heel away from the fingertips. Active in your center. Notice, can you do this with the least amount of effort? It's quite energetic in terms of a reach. Can you do it with an efficient use of your energy, efficient use of your center? And then letting that leg come all the way down. You may have some feelings at the top of the thigh. Letting that arm come all the way down. Shake out the toes, shake out the hip. And then we'll change sides. Right knee folds, foot to the floor. Left knee comes towards the chest, circling the ankle. And there may be a little snap, crackle, and popping in the joints. Generally, that's fine as long as you're not having discomfort. Pretty noisy in the bones, flexing and pointing. Watching your breath. So I haven't been specifically cueing the breath on this pattern, but again, it would be good to notice that you are breathing. Bicycle paths, flowing through the motion. If it's helpful to you to imagine the pressure of an actual bicycle, reversing direction, that can be sometimes interesting. And then finally letting that leg come to pause in the vertical, reaching the opposite arm up as if you were going to touch your toes, and then sending the limbs away from each other. So there's a firming through the trunk, through the supporting foot, the right foot, firm on the floor, feeling the core support subtly, not so subtly, letting there be space under that left thigh, reaching the right arm up as high as feels skillful. In some bodies, that might be up here somewhere, right? Depending on how the trunk feels about that organization. You decide just how deeply into it you want to go, and then finally controlling that leg, let it come down, controlling the arm, floating it down, let it open wide, shake out the toes, let that hip relax. And we're going to draw the knees to the chest now, give a little hug to your legs, rocking back and forth, side to side, massaging that low back. And then from here, we're actually going to come all the way to standing. So it's a bit of a big transition. I want you to take your time. There's no rush. It's not a competition. You might like grabbing your knees and rolling up from here. I'm going to demonstrate rolling onto one side and pushing up. And then you might go to a chair and come up to standing that way. If you're comfortable coming up from a kneeling position, it can be, I always encourage people to practice coming up with no hands. You could do this like that. You could also reach your chair and press down as you come up. And not to worry, I'm going to come change the height of the camera and pull back so you can see me. So you're going to want to just make sure you've got room to move. Your arms can reach overhead. There we are. So I find it's always interesting just to notice what just happened, right? We were on our backs a moment ago. We're now standing. So can you reorient the feeling of gravitational pull through the body? Now it's just the soles of the feet touching down, and the whole rest of our body is floating above those feet. Might be a nice thing just here briefly. If it's comfortable to close your eyes, you're welcome to feel this from the inside. If that makes you feel like you're going to fall over, leave them open. Shifting from right to left, just noticing how that feels. Do you spend more time in one leg than the other? And finally coming to center, somewhere the nose comes down to the space between the feet. Same thing, rocking forward and back. What happens if you take the weight forward and back? We wear shoes. Most of us wear shoes all the time, a lot of the time. Hopefully, some of us get to spend time barefoot, but wearing positive heeled shoes tends to pitch the body forward, or it's pitched forward and then we're compensating back. So just noticing, can you bring weight into the heels, feeling power rising up? And so finding a place, it doesn't have to be specific, but we're looking for a place where you feel powerful with some of these principles thrown in there, right? Oh, yeah, I do spend more time in my right hip. Okay, can I bring a little left side attention? Oh, yeah, I spend a lot of time in shoes. Can I bring some weight into my heels? And just noticing how that feels in the body. Here we are, mountain pose. Taking a couple of breaths. We're going to take a little practice for our shoulders next. I'm going to approach just so you can see. I'm going to bring the shoulders up and then send them in opposite directions as I let them sweep down and around. So it's almost like a water wheel where one is going one way and the other is going the other. You could also call this infinity shoulders because we're creating a little figure of 8 through the shoulder girdle. So just notice, does that feel doable? It's a little bit of a brain connection as well. And then when you're ready, reversing direction. Huh, interesting. Yeah, reversing direction. Okay, there we go. I I love little brain gym like things like that where you're inviting the brain to reverse into something that's not quite as natural. What happens? Beautiful. One or two more cycles. And then pausing. Take a moment. We are going to take this is the moment where we're either going to use a chair, a kitchen counter, or a wall for our sun salutation. So if you wanted to take a chair, I'm going to use the chair. And maybe what I'll do is show one side on the chair and one side at the wall, so you get to see how they are the same and a little bit different. And the chair is probably comparable to a kitchen counter. So we're going to start in mountain pose, which we just met. Maybe you're very familiar with. Maybe that was a first for you. Pausing to take a breath, and then we're going to let the arms float up. Hands to the heart center, palms together, gentle bow. Reaching back up with the palms touching, then opening arms, bending knees. My hands are going to come to the counter, the wall, the chair, and my right leg steps back. Right leg steps back in its own lane. Those back toes are just gently open. Back knee, hip, and ankle should be in agreement. I'm going to give a little push down into the chair or to the wall, the counter, and then let the arms rise to warrior one. Just taking a few breaths here, letting the armpits float up, letting the shoulder blades wrap around, maybe letting your gaze even lift higher. Just letting the ribs float away from the hips, anchored into the feet. We're going to let the arms open and come back to the surface you're working with, wall, chair, counter, whatever suits. Pressing down again, push to lift the front foot to meet your back foot. And we're going to take down dog. So we're sending the hips back over the heels. Feet are maybe a little bit more than hip width apart. Palms are pressing into your surface of choice, your supportive choice. I'm going to bend one knee and then bend the other. Notice if that feels comfortable to you. It's a bit of a changes the stretch from the back of the leg to a little bit up into this side hip. It may feel good to you. Checking in with your sacrum, make sure that feels okay with your low back. Back and forth. And if it didn't, you could bend both knees together or you could leave both knees long. We're going to press down again, roll up with both feet back where they still are. Make sure your chair is not going to slide, but let your hips come a little bit forward. So it's almost like you're in a plank pose, right? Where there's some load in the arms, there's engagement through your core, and breathe. And then we're going to step the right foot forward, leaving the left foot back, letting that knee bend, applying some pressure again through the palms. Let the arms float back up to warrior one, where that gaze might rise, the armpits lift and wrap around the side body. Palms might face each other. They might even clasp if you preferred, right? Feel your way into this in such a way you feel powerful, long, energized, feeling that energy rising. Rise and shine. Bring the hands back down to the chair. Step the back foot forward and straighten up. There we have a sun salutation. So I'm going to teach it, cue it, again, stepping back first with the left, and I'm going to approach the wall. I'm going to do it on the wall just so you get to see another variation. If you want to try adding a variation yourself, it means my back is to you. I'm not being rude, just accommodating the space I'm in. So standing in mountain, you may find being this close to the wall creates a little sense of disorientation visually. At least I feel that way, and I've noticed that for other folks. So you might just let your eyes close if that were skillful. Pausing there for a moment, or just let the gaze soften if that makes you dizzy. Letting the arms float up. It's a lot of self-research. Hands come to the heart center. Gentle bow. Reaching back up. Opening the arms, softening the knees. So it's the left foot stepping back. And this time I can just let my fingertips gently touch and guide me, right? So that I can find that position. Now here again, I'm actually going to press into the wall. I like the pressure because my arm sends the cue to my core, right? That waist, pelvic floor, low back network. That's going to help support the ribs, lifting away from the hips, letting the armpits rise. Maybe the gaze rises here as well. Breathing in, breathing out. And this time I'm going to bring the hands directly back to the wall. Maybe shoulder width apart, maybe a little wider. And from there, step that front foot back. Again, adjusting your feet till you find a comfortable position. I like to be higher than 90 degrees when I'm at the wall in terms of that push, because I get that overhead reach, can feel really active. If you have the range of motion and you want to come lower and push, go right ahead. As I said, I like a little bit higher. It gives me a chance to really feel that quality of pushing the arms up overhead. And then again, maybe bending one knee and then the other. If you liked that, bending both, feeling the release of your tailbone back and away. Crown of the head is pointing towards the wall. Maybe you're doing this at the chair still or the kitchen counter. It's all good. I'm going to press into my hands and draw my spine up tall until I'm in that space where my hips can come towards the wall. And I can play here with the height of my hands. And here I am, I'm like in an inverted or standing plank pose. So there's just a bit of load And that requires that I continue to push through my arms, letting the spine move towards the space behind me. And then when you're ready, stepping the left foot forward and then the right foot forward, letting the arms rise and release from your support. Hands to the heart center, gentle bow, let the hands keep going to release by your side. Back to your mountain pose and maybe pausing for a breath or two. Good. And then when you're ready, go ahead and shake it out, wiggle it out. Right? Yoga tends to be lots of straight lines, and it's nice in between to get some curvy lines. Let things go, shake things out. Okay, let's do this. Let's take a little dancing crane. If you've been in my class before, you might know this pattern. Again, I'm turning my back to you for simplicity so you can follow along. We're going to shift the weight from right to left. So this is a moving, flowing practice. It's a balance practice. We're shifting from one leg to the other and then beginning to lift one knee and lower down and lift. So I'm going to turn to the side so you can see. Something sort of just to note is that the rest of my body, this leg is bending, but the rest of my body is still pretty much in mountain pose. All right, so I'm keeping firm in the core, firm in my trunk. I'm going to let my arms begin to flow with me. But the hinge is at the hip. I want to try and keep my spine as neutral as mountain. And now I'm going to step my right leg back, reaching the fingertips away from that back heel, and then sliding back to crane, stepping side, crane pose, sliding that foot back to crescent, giving a stretch to that back calf and side, maybe feeling your heart rate begin to change, your breath rhythm begin to change. Maybe you just hear mine back and forth a couple more times. All right, letting the energy flow, coordinating upper and lower half. Whew. Last one. And then we're going to go back to just side to side crane. It can be really helpful to check that your eyes are at the horizon or even a little bit higher in the space you're in. I'm going to give the shoulders a rest, and now it's just the knee lift. So we're coming back the way we came. And then just side to side stepping, shifting the weight. Noticing your heart rate, noticing your breath, noticing muscular engagement, feelings. What are the sensations in your body until you dial back once more to stillness? What does that feel like? Beautiful. Okay, our last standing practice is a balance. I'm going to take tightrope. There's a few ways to play with this. You would be welcome to just let it be a moving forward. So it's heel to toe, as if you were walking a tightrope. And you'll notice sometimes I'm just sliding my foot forward along the ground, and sometimes I'm stepping. And both are an option. You could even be a little more thoughtful about kicking your foot back, bringing it up, stepping heel to toe. So those are a couple of ways to play with this. Another way to play with this would be to take the tightrope, bring one foot in front of the other, pressing down into the floor, and I'm thinking of pressing down with my hands as well, rising up onto the balls of my feet. I turned my head. That's a big change for my balance system, right? Which is proprioception. Where am I in space? Ocular and vestibular. Eyes, inner ear, right? So if we start throwing our head around, which we could do intentionally, turning to look a new way, challenging balance. Maybe now I step forward with that head turn, rising, turning the other way. Good. So hopefully you've been playing along with me, trying some different ways to use this balance, posture, tightrope, and perhaps too your energy feels uplifted, right? The challenge of drawing energy up from the earth. I'm going to recommend to close this practice. If you would like, you could do two things. One being simply come to a chair, any kind, in the space you're in. Taking a moment to sit and allow the breath just to come back to its resting rhythm before you move on into your day. Alternatively, if you are really a fan of the floor and the feedback from the floor, coming back down, maybe drawing knees to chest, a gentle massage. Oh, letting the knees fall towards each other, the arms open wide. Closing the eyes for a few breaths, letting the heart come back to its slower resting pace, your breath return to a smooth rhythm. Pausing for just one more moment. Perhaps you'll notice, right? Sometimes a yoga class has a very long shavasana, but it can also be effective, right? Particularly if you're moving back into your day with some energy, and that was the point of this class, to just, okay, I've restored my breath, I'm moving back out into my day. It can be a really useful thing just to notice what you need, right? So I hope this was a invigorating practice for you in your day. Thank you for joining me, filling your cup so you can fill the cups of others, and I look forward to practicing with you again soon. Be well.